Thoughts after a funeral. First of all, this is freaking cliche, but life is short. And we never know when we're going to draw our last breath. And on that cheerful note, first of all, you feel the way you feel. Obviously, people feel a lot of intense emotions at a funeral. We always think of a person feeling sad at a funeral, but maybe you feel sad, maybe you feel angry, maybe you don't feel anything at all in the moment. And there isn't always a direct correlation to how you felt about the person. You could have had a very troubled relationship with the person where you just wanted to smack them. And then when they die, you're devastated. Other times you can be very, very close to a person. They can be a family member, they can be a friend. You go to the funeral and feel nothing, and it's okay. The way you feel in the moment is just the way you feel in the moment. The other thing is, if you have broken relationships, try to fix them while there's still time. If there's any way, if you have drifted relationships, if you used to be close and you miss the person, maybe you can reach out, maybe you can rekindle that relationship. Sometimes the relationship is very toxic. It might be physically dangerous, it might be emotionally dangerous. Maybe you can't fix this relationship, and that's okay. This is one of those things that it's a very personal decision because you know all the factors. But if you can heal any of your relationships or strengthen them now while you have the chance. The other thing is, don't assume anything. Don't assume that you know either the deceased or the other mourners. Don't assume that you know everything about their life or you can expect them to react in a certain way. Emotional responses are a very highly individualized thing. So you might see a mourner who seems very upset and you never thought they were that close. But there could be other things going on. Maybe there was an incident between them you didn't know about. Either really could, like maybe one time that the deceased reached out and was there for that person at that moment. They were never close again. They were never close before. You never know. Or maybe the person the survivor who seems really upset, maybe they had always kind of held out hope that things would get better, that they could possibly draw closer to the deceased person. Or it might have just been a complicated relationship where they had their ups and downs and maybe it ended on a down note and they wished it had ended on an up note. You never know. But you can't assume that just because a person is sitting there with a calm face that they felt nothing or did not love the deceased, and you can't assume that because somebody is upset that it's either an act. Sometimes a person goes to a funeral and they know that the circumstances around the death, although they might not have been very close to this person, it resonates with them. Like if you like to go to the funeral of people burying a child, maybe that person buried a child. And so they're feeling a great deal of sympathy pain for the survivors. You never know. Don't be afraid of your feelings. Don't push your feelings away. Don't try to work up a feeling that you think you should have. Now, I'm not talking about wildly, hysterically sobbing and throwing yourself on the casket, although I've been to funerals where that happened. But if you're genuinely sad, it's okay to look and feel sad. If you don't necessarily feel sad, well, maybe this is a time for you to minister to other people around you. Maybe someone else needs a comforting hug or just for you to walk alongside them. And that's okay too. Your feelings might be very complicated, And you need to work this out in your own way, whether it's just by being extra kind to yourself, by reaching out to others who are suffering. If you're, I mean, I say to my kids, if you're lonely, pick up the phone. I mean, don't play games and sit around and say, gee, I wish people would call me. If you're lonely, call them. If you have needs, reach out to people. And this is just kind of my own feeling, but the big major events of our lives, the births, the marriages, the deaths, I feel like that's a time that we can reflect on the bigger questions, on the spiritual questions. Every culture in the world, every religion in the world celebrates maybe that's not a good word, commemorates these landmarks because they're huge, because they change us forever. And it's a good time to get back in touch with the great questions of life, as my camera is slipping here. It's maybe this is a time for a spiritual journey. Maybe this is one of my things I like to do, actually, when I'm processing a death, is to go on a nostalgic trip. I live not too far from where I grew up, and it's very easy for me to go and revisit places where I used to live and to see my old schools or the homes of relatives. And sometimes when I feel like I'm not in a good headspace, that I'm flying in all different directions, sometimes that anchors me to remember where I came from. And sometimes it gives me some ideas of maybe where I want to head in the future. I've never gotten this major revelation, but I find that it helps to realign me with my past and my present and my future. As you can probably guess, I did just come from a funeral, and I'm still half dressed in my clothes. I wore a skirt. I did not wear lounge pants. But I'm still in my funeral clothes, and while all this is fresh in my memory from the funeral and from the luncheon afterwards, I just thought that I would share these ideas with you. And thank you for bearing with me and listening to my little talk. And I hope you're having a great day. Bye.